Hare Krishna. Everybody of us want to be our life perfect, always want to be happy, and we want a better destination after this life. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned the effect of leading life without regulative principles. Yashastra vidimutsrajya vartate kamakarata nasa siddhim avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. It means Yashastra vidimutsrajya vartate kamakarata. One who leads his life according to his own whims without following the injunctions of the scriptures, then neither he will attain happiness nor perfection nor a better destination in the next life. All the scriptures speak about the importance of the human form of life, because human form of life is the best vehicle to attain the highest destination after this life. But after attaining this human form of life, if one engages in activities which are just like of animals, then there is no difference. Like we see, animals engage in major 4 activities. They engage in eating, try to find their food around, sleeping, they just when they are exhausted, they try to find the place where they have to rest. Mating, they also find their partners, and defending. When there is a danger, they try to defend the danger. These are the 4 major activities which animals do. But if human beings also are limited to only do these activities, then there is no difference. We may argue that we are engaged in so many other activities also, like we are having industries, we are doing scientific advancement, research and technology, and we are doing economic development, and we are also doing the social development. But if you see, ultimately all these things are to satisfy these 4 purposes only. That's why unless human beings engage in thinking higher than this, the purpose of the life, about the creation, about the truth beyond the creation of this world, that is God, the human being is not considered higher than animals. In Mahabharata, so there is a verse regarding this aspect. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha samanyametat pashubir naranam dharmo hitesha adhiko vishesho dharme nahina pashubir samana. This means that ahara nidra bhaya maituna, these 4 activities are common among nara and pashu. Samanyametat pashubir narana dharmo hitesham adhiko vishesha. If one doesn't ask about questions about is real dharma means it has 2 meanings. Dharma means nature, and also dharma means the duty. Our eternal real nature of the soul is to love. This is the first meaning. The second meaning of dharma means the duty. So unless one asks this question, he is not greater than animals. That is what is the meaning of these words. Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesho dharmena hina pashubir samana. We may argue that we are doing better than animals if we are doing these 4 activities, but that doesn't make us different than animals. It's just by doing these activities more sophisticated way. In Vedic scriptures, there is a description of various levels of consciousness. So the first level of consciousness is the Achadita Chetana. Achadita means completely covered. The consciousness is completely covered. What does it mean? It means the sense of awareness or the feeling of pain and pleasure. All these things are completely covered, but it shows the symptoms of living. For examples, if you see trees, if you see the vegetation, all the creepers, grass, so these are the examples for the Achedita Chetana. These living forms have the consciousness completely covered. They show the symptoms of living, that is, they reproduce, they grow, they also die at certain point of time. But the other important symptoms of the consciousness is not exclusively shown out. So that's why these forms are considered as very low conscious beings. In our scriptures, in our Puranas, it is mentioned that if some human or some devatas, when they committed severe offenses, they were cursed to take birth as trees, because they were showing the behavior, or they were showing the consciousness of such a low living forms being in the human body. So that's why trees and vegetations are considered very low conscious beings. Consciousness is very low. And the next level of consciousness is Sankuchita Chetana. Sankuchita means it is not completely covered, not Achadita, but it is shrunken, it is contracted. So this is especially, you can see the examples are animals, cows, dogs, all the animals, because they also express themselves. They are quite intelligent to find the food, to find the shelter, to defend, to find their partners, and they also show some qualities like gratitude, and they also express some like symptoms of like anger. But animals cannot ask questions like, why am I suffering, why I am getting such kind of suffering, such kind of disease or any other things. So that's why their consciousness is shrunken or it's contracted. Sankuchita Chetana. So next three levels of consciousness: Mukulita Chetana, Vikasita Chetana, and Purna Vikasita Chetana. These three levels of consciousness is especially for human beings. Now coming to the Mukulita Chetana. Mukulita Chetana, it means slightly budding consciousness. The consciousness is slightly budding. It means it's growing, it's evolving. It means they are aware of how to behave. Like if you see animals, they don't know how to behave. Like they just act in the two aspects. One is stimuli and the response. They just, when they get the stimuli, immediately they react for that. But human beings, when they get stimuli, before responding, they can think. They can proactively respond, not reactively. But animals respond reactively. So that's why there is a consciousness of morals and ethics, and so there is like a behavior of cooperation and all these things. So this we can see in a Mukulita Chetana, that is slightly budding consciousness. And next higher to this is Vikasita Chetana. The consciousness is developed consciousness, Vikasita. Developed consciousness in the sense, they know the human body is especially meant for the self-realization. They ask questions about the God, our real identity, reason behind the sufferings we face in our life. So, and once they get the answers for this, they march ahead towards the God. This is called Vikasita Chetana. Their consciousness is developed. And the last level of consciousness is Purna Vikasita Chetana. Purna Vikasita Chetana, it means the consciousness is fully developed, completely developed. It means they are completely realized and liberated souls who are existing in this earth. So they are very rare to find, but if somebody comes in contact of such a pure souls, they immediately can feel the rise in their consciousness, because they are having the connection with the God. They have already established the connection with the God. They have realized the God. That's why they are called Purna Vikasita Chetana. Their consciousness is completely developed, fully developed. So that's why we see the Vedic scriptures also mentions about the various levels of consciousness. So we have to also try our consciousness to raise gradually. So one of the way is to come in contact with the scriptures and come in contact with the sadhu, the spiritual aspirant. Human form of life is meant to get the permanent solutions of our problems. So often we see we have so many other, every one of us face some problems in our life, but there are some problems which are common to all, which nobody can escape, and also nobody wants it. So this is the meaning of real problem, which Krishna defines in Bhagavad Gita. He tells in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13 that Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. Dukkha, it means it gives the suffering. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi, birth, death, old age and disease. These four things gives us dukkha. Dukkha dosha anudarshanam. One should regularly remember this, that these four things always give us suffering and miseries. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Anudarshanam. As soon as we hear the word death, one becomes frightened and it becomes very fearful. Why? Because death is the point when everything from us is taken away. Our wealth, our all accumulations, our all friends and relatives, and not only all these things, but even this body is immediately taken at the time of death. So that's why death is very fearful for everybody. So as soon as they hear of death, they become fearful. Why? Because their ignorance of what is there after the death. We don't know what is there after death. That's why that is the main reason we become very fearful of death. And old age. When old age occurs, the body becomes invalid. It becomes very weak. All the organs lose their functions to some extent, and one has to depend on others, and one becomes very less active, and the memory will reduce, and so many things like this. So that's why nobody wants become old. He wants to always remain young and youth, which is disease. So disease is a condition. It is the condition when the body is completely unhealthy and inactive. It is suffering from some pain. So nobody wants to get even disease. So disease is the condition when we even cannot perform our daily routine activities. We cannot perform any positive activities. So we want to immediately get relief from this disease condition. So this is a suffering. And finally, birth. So somebody may ask, why birth is a problem or it is a suffering? Did Krishna by mistake put this word in Bhagavad Gita verse? No. So there is a reason, because scriptures mention about birth is a dukkha, because in the womb, when the soul is there in the form of embryo in the womb, it gets lot of suffering. It experiences a lot of suffering there. Just imagine if somebody has locked us in a cupboard for a few hours. So we feel so horrible, terrible. Just for a few hours. But what to speak of few hours, we have already spent 9 months in a womb where it was a similar situation. So the embryo feels a lot of suffering in the womb. So that's why Shastras mention these 4 things are the point of suffering. So one who is intelligent thinks of how to get out of these 4 sufferings. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam, iha samsare bahu dustare kripaya pahi murare. This is what Shankaracharya is speaking in Bhajagovindam shloka, Bhajagovindam prayers. Bhajagovindam, Bhajagovindam, Govindam Bhajamudamate. So this cycle is repeating again and again. So human form of life is very key to come out of this cycle. Like Surdas is a famous poet and also is a devotee. He mentions that there is a person who was blind and he was caught up in a room. There was only one door, and the door was not locked, but it was just closed, and he was searching where is the door, like this, and placing the hands on the wall. And exactly when he came at the point of door, he started scratching somewhere, and he was itching. There was some itching in his body parts, and he lifted the hand from the wall, took off his hand from the wall. So he missed the door and he went ahead. Again he was touching the wall. It means he could not come out of this. Similarly, when we are in the other bodies, when the soul is in the other bodies, there is no chance of coming out to get liberation. But when the soul is present in the human body, it can get liberation. But when what mistake it does, when soul comes in the human body, it starts scratching. It means it starts engaging into the sense gratification, so that it misses the chance to come out of this whole bondage. So one may say that these 4 sufferings in our life, it comes at certain point, at certain interval of time, at certain interval of time. So I don't have to worry all the time, but it is mentioned that one gets suffering all the time by these 3 kleshas. First is Adhyatmika klesha, then Adibhautika klesha, then Adidaivika klesha. One faces constant suffering in his life by one or more of these kleshas. Adhyatmika klesha means suffering due to our own mind. So many of us face problems like depression, insecurity, competition, comparison. So all this suffering is due to our own mind. Nobody else has to cause this suffering. And the Adibhautika klesha means suffering by other living entities. Like other living entities harm us physically, or some other people insult us, ridicule us, mock at us, or quarrel with us. So this is Adibhautika klesha, suffering by other living entities. And Adidaivika klesha, suddenly there is earthquake, suddenly there is a cyclone, so suddenly there is a tsunami. So these are the sufferings given by the natural calamities. So that's why these 3 kleshas always torment the living entities. The suffering is there all the time. So the intelligent person tries to eliminate this suffering for permanently. So this is what is the ultimate purpose of human life. Thank you. Hare Krishna.